Everybody, hi. Welcome to today's SBGrid webinar series. Next week, we have Makia Papascari Scott, who I apologize in advance if I pronounced her name wrong, from Yorgos Skiniotis' group at Stanford School of Medicine to talk about structures of metabolomic GABAB receptors. And following that, we're going to have a brief Q&A with SBGrid staff about common problems if everybody's interested. Today, I'm really excited and happy to introduce Tom Goddard, who's, if you are not familiar with him, he's a prolific scientific software developer. He was involved with Sparky for NMR data processing development. He's been working on Chimera and ChimeraX. And ChimeraX is a new visualization program for macromolecular graphics and has a lot of cool features, including VR and AR, which I'm personally interested to hear about because the 3D stereo graphics seems to be starting to fade into history and something has to take its place. So with that, Tom, thank you again for joining us, and I will turn it over to you.
Great, thanks, Pete. So today we're going to look at augmented reality in ChimeraX. We released our ChimeraX version 1.0 just a month ago. And so if you're a Chimera user, you might want to give ChimeraX a try. It doesn't have all the features of Chimera yet. We're still working on moving some of the features of Chimera to ChimeraX. But ChimeraX has all the new cool stuff, and all our development effort goes into ChimeraX the last few years. The only thing we do on Chimera is like fix critical bugs. So at some point you'll want to move over. You can use both programs at the same time. They can both be installed. ChimeraX isn't like a new version of Chimera. It's a really different, it's a different program. Okay, so by the way, I did, I guess a lot of people at SBGrid do electron microscopy, and I did the electron microscopy stuff in Chimera and also in ChimeraX. What we're going to look at today is some of the craziest stuff in ChimeraX, doing augmented reality. And by augmented reality, I mean we have videos of me or you, a presenter, and molecules that are computer generated mixed together. And why would you want to do this? I kind of got into this by accident, and what I found, I think, is that it's a very good way to tell a story about molecular structures. It's a very good way to communicate science. And as I said, I got into it by accident. Let me explain that a little bit. I've been doing virtual reality in ChimeraX for a few years, and I think that has a lot of promise. We look at binding sites of drugs in receptors. It works very well for that because you have the immersive view. It works very well for looking at electron microscopy and how well the atomic model fits to the cryo-EM density. And anyway, most people don't have VR headsets, and I've for a long time wanted to see how could I better explain to somebody who doesn't have a VR headset what VR looks like. And so in February, I made a little video that I put on YouTube showing how coronavirus gets into cells. And I did it in VR. There's the image on the screen. So I made this video on YouTube, and the point was to get people interested in using VR. Look, here I'm using VR to show something about coronavirus that you might be interested in. Everybody ignored the VR, okay? But there were 100 comments. They were very excited about the augmented reality. Like, how is it that I am there and the molecule is there in the same video? And they loved that. So example comment, let's see, I wrote one down here. This is what 21st century science is supposed to look like. And there are many other very enthusiastic comments. In the first month, this video had about 300 likes and 0 dislikes. I was just stunned. I mean, usually some people at least dislike this stuff. And in the last, I did that in February, and that video has had about 28,000 views, which is a lot for a kind of nerdy science video about molecules. So I think this way of telling a story about your molecular science can be very effective. That video was sort of targeted towards the public, and it was, of course, on this very current and hot topic of how coronaviruses work. But I think this could be used for communicating your research to other researchers, for instance, to make a video as supplementary material for a journal article. Okay, enough intro. Let me show you like how this thing actually works. By the way, let's see. I think we've got it set up so that you can just unmute and ask a question at any time. And I'd appreciate it if you ask a question. I feel already like, geez, I'm in this empty room here in my house talking to nobody because I don't see any of your pictures. Video is off for that. And so if you don't ask a question, like just unmute and ask a question, you know, we're a small group here, then I feel like I'm just talking to my cat, okay? It's the only one in the room here. And my cat, you can see, he doesn't care about augmented reality. So please ask questions.
Well, your cat looks pretty cute, and you're talking to in the ballpark of 95 people. So.
Okay, 95. That's a lot, but really, jump in and ask a question. Okay, so I'm going to switch computers to my virtual reality computer. I'm on a Mac now, and Mac can't really do VR very well, and so I'm going to switch to my Windows computer and screen share and show you what this augmented reality looks like. And then I'll explain how it's done. And I'm going to show two techniques, okay? I'm going to show you this technique to do the augmented reality where I have a VR headset. And the drawback of that is you don't have a VR headset probably. And not only is it a VR headset, it's using some fancy depth sensing camera, even more exotic equipment. But after that, I'm going to show you something I just added, which will let you on your laptop, just with your webcam, do some augmented reality video. Okay, so let's get going here. I'm going to switch to my Windows machine if I can. I'll try to share my screen here.
All right, we've still got your Mac up there.
Okay, yeah, I'm just switching here. Let's see if it...
Yep, it's looking like it's picked up.
So we're on, okay, cool. So we're on my Windows machine now. And I have ChimeraX running here. And I have it, my VR headset. Let's see, is this right?
Yep.
Oh, but hold on, I'm going to restart ChimeraX because in my little test, I forgot to do something important. So I'm going to just start ChimeraX. I'm going to load up a session, and we're going to look at remdesivir, this drug that is one of the only two drugs, I think, right now that clinical trials have shown is effective against the coronavirus. So let's see, let's do this. All right. So let me show you remdesivir and a little bit about how remdesivir works in augmented reality. So this is remdesivir. Is this working okay, Pete? Like you see me?
So far, so good. There's a little bit of screen lag in your ChimeraX AR screen, but everything is showing up fine.
It's hard to stream video on Zoom and get good response. So this is remdesivir. Remdesivir is a flexible molecule. Here, I'm going to just run a little molecular dynamics on it. Okay, very flexible. The way it works is when the virus is trying to copy its RNA, remdesivir can get inserted into the RNA copy, and it jams the copying machinery. It jams the RNA polymerase the virus is using. And here's a model of the RNA of the SARS coronavirus 2. So it's huge. These coronaviruses have the largest single-strand RNA genomes of all viruses, about 30,000 nucleotides. Here is the polymerase. So the structure of the copying machinery of the virus was solved a couple months ago. It was solved by electron microscopy. Let me show you what that electron microscopy data looks like. So I got a 2D micrograph here. Okay. And
Tom, just to give you a heads up, we're not seeing your 2D micrograph quite yet. We're still seeing the virus and the polymerase.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'm seeing it.
Okay. Now we're starting to see your micrograph come in.
Okay, good. I'll tell me to slow down if there's lag and you're not seeing the things.
Will do.
Okay, excellent. So the little black specks, the little paw prints here, are the polymerase. There are about 1,000 in this micrograph. And they took 3,000 of these images, so they had a lot of particles to reconstruct and get this three-dimensional map. Like so. It's about 3 angstroms resolution. Okay.
Yep, that's showing up great.
And of course, built an atomic model from there. And if I put some surfaces on the proteins here, we can see it a little bit better. So there are 3 proteins in the, this is the RNA copying. The polymerase is the gray. And then if they mix the polymerase with just some RNA, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't bind the RNA. And so 2 other viral proteins, this blue and this purple guy, they're called non-structural protein 7 and 8. If they add those in, it makes this complex and it will load the RNA. And so we see the RNA being caught, the 2 strands of RNA here. Okay, that's enough demo of how the augmented reality works. I'm going to take off the headset and I'm going to switch back to my Mac. Yes, I'm going to switch back to my Mac now. So that gives you an idea.
All right.
So, I'm going to go back to screen sharing on my Mac. Okay.
And your Mac is back up now.
Okay. So that was like a little demo, just live demo of doing the augmented reality. To record a video of that, I just do some screen capture, just with whatever screen capture program. On Windows, I use Flashback Express or Flashback Pro. So let me show you. You saw that I was wearing a VR headset, okay? And in that headset, I see the molecules and everything in 3D. So it's very easy for me to manipulate them. And I can do whatever you could normally do in ChimeraX with those molecules. I just switched through and showed you some different kinds of data, just hiding and showing the models. I was doing that in a tricky way with a button on the VR hand controller. But what I was doing just a couple days ago when I was practicing this is I would just click on the model panel in Chimera to hide and show models. But it was slower, and so I switched to using a VR, just button press.
So I guess one question about the interface with VR is that a lot of the time the molecular graphics programs assume that you've got a keyboard in front of you. And it seems like if you're in VR with the 2 hand paddles, it seems like you don't have that. So.
Yep, this is like a huge problem with the VR. Now, if we take away your keyboard and your mouse, it's really hard to get anything done. And so I would say that the virtual reality is still, it's not like a high productivity tool. It's an interesting thing to use. And I think in the future, when there are better user interfaces that can make up for not being able to type on the keyboard, it will become more useful. But I don't have a solution for that. A lot of what you can do a lot more in ChimeraX with just button clicks. Like it has toolbars along the top that, let's see if I show you that. It has these toolbars that have a ton of icons that do all kinds of things. And it has a lot of mouse modes, and all of those can be used in VR. So there are many things you can do, but not having the keyboard is still is a big issue.
I don't know if this is too tangential a question, but have you thought about using some of the voice recognition stuff?
Oh yeah, I've tried that, and we've tried it a few different ways. I've seen it work pretty well, but I don't have something in ChimeraX that's working now, because usually it uses a cloud service to interpret the speech, and yeah, hooking up to the cloud service.
Yeah,
you know, if it requires having an account to do that, it gets a little tricky. But that's in the future, and I think it will be in terms of substituting for not having a keyboard in VR, being able to just say things, you know, open PDB 1 XYZ and have it do it. Definitely possible. It's possible now with you know, with work on the software. Okay, so how did that augmented reality I just show you work? It used a VR headset. The VR headset was tethered to the Windows computer. Okay, it has this cable coming off of it going to my Windows machine. I was using a Vive Pro, but it can work with all kinds of different headsets, like an Oculus Rift S. That's sitting here. The VR, I was using this Vive Pro headset, and it has base stations. Like I have them sitting here that allow tracking. So that can be a real nuisance, but even more, I have more equipment that made that augmented reality video happen. I have this depth sensing camera, and see, even if I turn on the lights in here. Sorry for swishing around your video so much here by holding my. So this is a depth sensing camera right here. It's an Intel RealSense D435. It's got 2 infrared cameras on it, one here and one here. It has a color camera on it. So it has 3 cameras, and it can not only give me the color, you know, image, it gives me the depth at every pixel. And that's important because when I want to combine that video that camera's providing with the molecule, I want to know if my hands are in front or behind the molecule, okay? So I'm using that Intel RealSense depth camera, combining it with the VR. There were 2 commands that I used. I said VR on in ChimeraX, that turned on the VR, and I used RealSense on, which turned on the depth sensing camera. And that was pretty much it. By the way, the details, I'm not going to tell you enough details that even if you had all this equipment, you could do it. I just want to give you the idea, but I have a web page online on the ChimeraX website. There's a link on the ChimeraX website to presentations. That's what I'm showing here, this web page. It has a bunch of links to the really nitty-gritty details of like how I calibrated this depth sensing camera, and lots of other information. So on the ChimeraX website under presentations, actually here, I'll go there quickly. Here's the ChimeraX website. This presentations link on the left, and at the very top, because I just added it yesterday, how to make augmented reality videos. Okay. There was one additional thing on this depth sensing camera, and I was showing you here.
Tom, actually, one thing. So the video of you showing it, it shows up in the tiny pane here. So I don't know if you wanted to try stopping screen sharing on your Mac, you might make the video bigger for all the other folks.
Oh, crud, I wasn't aware. Yeah, of course, of course.
It didn't occur to me until just now, so I apologize for that.
Yes, I'm stopping the screen share.
Okay. Yep. Now your camera video is full screen.
Excellent, excellent.
Or not full
okay,
screen,
that
but
helps a lot. Thank you. So yeah, so here's the depth sensing camera I was telling you about with its multiple 3 cameras built in. It's a tiny little thing, just the size of my finger. On top of it, this is a Vive tracker. It's part of the VR system, and it allows the VR system, I've mounted it to the camera, so it allows the VR system to know where the camera is in the room, okay? Because the camera provides the video of me, but then the ChimeraX needs to render the molecules from the same viewpoint as that physical camera. And then those two are blended together. Okay, so that's, any questions about how all that tricky business is working and how much fancy equipment was needed to like make it work?
So one question about that, you mentioned a couple of the desktop ones. I know that there's been a push for some of the standalone VR headsets that are basically like Android.
Hey Pete, I lost you. Sorry, your question, the audio got clipped. I didn't hear it all.
Sorry about that. So I was asking about the standalone Android-based VR tablets, if you've looked at those at all.
Oh yeah. So the most popular VR headset these days is called Oculus Quest. And it's a standalone headset. It doesn't need a wire connected to your PC, your Windows PC, and it runs Android. That's the operating system. And that means that ChimeraX can't run on that headset because ChimeraX doesn't run on Android. Android is a cell phone operating system, basically. But the Oculus Quest can, a cable can be connected to it, to your Windows machine. And so it is possible to use that headset and do just what I showed, to do VR with ChimeraX, where the ChimeraX runs on the Windows machine. But it will be tethered by a cable.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And
so,
I think we had another question from
sure.
that came in from chat, and Chris Jones, who said he can't unmute himself at the moment, but he was asking about adding in green screens.
Yeah. So if we had a green screen, that would be a way to like you could just have the person shown, and you wouldn't have to see my room. Okay, because I could. Like I'd have a green screen in back of me and we just eliminate all that green part. I don't have support for that right now. And I actually think it's, well, I'd be interested to hear a good reason to have support for it. At least in what I've done so far, it's fine if I don't need to block out all this stuff behind me. But I'll show you something similar in our next segment here, where I'm going to show you how to do this augmented reality, where I use sort of a reverse green screen technique. We're going to do some augmented reality that you can actually do without all this fancy equipment, using just ChimeraX on your laptop or your desktop, okay, with a webcam. All right, any more questions about this VR segment? All right, let's go on. Let me show you the.
Can I ask one question before you go?
Yeah, certainly.
Off the VR. My name's Ken Sadisher, and I probably talked to you before.
Yeah, good to meet you, Ken.
Good to meet you, and I want to thank you for your pioneering work in this area. It seems like you guys are way ahead of everybody else.
It's fun to do the cutting edge stuff. Thanks.
Now, my question has always been, how can I use this to teach in a class? Right? So
yes.
VR is kind of like one person with a blindfold on.
Yep.
And the professor I know has a NVIDIA Vision 3D amphitheater, which he teaches in.
Okay.
Which is great. He loves it. You have the 3D glasses, and then we get a projector that projects the two images on a screen, and you can see a lot of PyMol, et cetera. So now, of course, with COVID, nobody's going to get in the same room anymore. But I was wondering if you couldn't do something like you do the VR, and what I see is a 3D vision on my machine. Because I wouldn't need to control it if I'm just visualizing it. On the other hand, so you'd have to stream a 3D signal to
Yeah.
my machine.
I think one thing about 3D is, and trying to show a group of people, like in a teaching situation, is if I'm looking at 3D and VR, you don't want to be subjected to my view, okay? Because it's going to make you car sick, because I'm going to turn my head, but you didn't turn your head, and things are going to look different to you because you don't have control of where you're looking. And it's very, when you're looking, when you really have 3D vision and it's immersive and you don't control where you're looking or moving, it's like being on a roller coaster. And so I don't think that that would work very well. But I think that the topic of this presentation of this augmented reality, and I guess I agree with your comments that VR, it's hard to do things in a group in VR. In ChimeraX, the main way the VR has been used before this coronavirus, when we were at UCSF and we had all our gear and a bunch of labs had VR, is multiple people in the same VR session. Usually only 2, okay? But it could support more, 5 people. And so Matt Jacobson, who does drug binding, his lab would have lab meetings where a couple people are in VR, the other people are watching on a projector, non-3-dimensional, just the ChimeraX view, and they have a discussion. So that's a group situation. But I think this augmented reality has a lot of potential for teaching situations. One application that I would suggest is to have the students actually create some augmented reality. If they're supposed to be learning about some molecules, they could potentially start ChimeraX, use their webcam, and explain some molecule just as an assignment. And that's the kind of thing that could be posted online too, on YouTube, say, and that could be used to teach other people. So I think that this augmented reality is a good technology for teaching, and VR is much more difficult for teaching. Okay, long answer.
Yeah, I think augmented reality is like seminar based, where the presenter can be out front, making the display, and everybody's just watching the screen.
Yeah.
So that's.
So let me show you this next technique, because I'm really excited about. I added it just for this webinar because I was thinking about this webinar and I was thinking of showing you the augmented reality, and I thought, you know what? Nobody has this equipment, so what's the point of telling them? Well, there's some point, but so let me show you now how you can use this stuff yourself. So I'm going to turn on screen sharing again, and I'm going to start up ChimeraX on my Mac laptop.
Okay, we're seeing your Mac again.
Okay, and I've got ChimeraX here. Let me make it reasonable size. Well, actually, let me just. I'm going to just restart my ChimeraX because I was running a little test there. And I'm going to reload this remdesivir video, and I'm going to show you a little augmented reality just on the laptop, without all the fancy equipment. No VR, no nothing. I've loaded a session, and I'm going to turn on this command that was added this weekend. Webcam on is the command. Okay, so I appear now in the ChimeraX graphics with my molecule. This is remdesivir again. Let me just give you a little demo here. I'm going to show you some more details about remdesivir. So I said it gets inserted into the RNA that the virus is making a copy of. It gets inserted as an adenine, okay, as an A in the RNA. And let me just show you here is the base. This is remdesivir. This is a base. And then here is the sugar, this ring here. And there's a phosphate here. When the RNA is normally adding an A, it uses an ATP, okay, a triphosphate form. And so in order for remdesivir to get added, it needs to be a triphosphate. And this part here of the remdesivir gets removed, and there's another part down here, this ring, that gets removed, and then 2 more phosphates get added. This all happens after the drug. The drug is taken intravenously, but this happens in your body. The drug gets converted to this active form, which is remdesivir triphosphate, okay? Let me show you remdesivir triphosphate. I made a little model of that. I'm gonna hide my remdesivir. I'm just using the normal ChimeraX controls now, and I'll show this RTP remdesivir triphosphate. Okay, so this looks a lot more like an ATP molecule, but the key difference is right here. This carbon and this nitrogen on the remdesivir. So this little cyano group is added to the sugar, and it sticks out a long ways. And when the RNA polymerase, the virus polymerase, adds this instead of an A, this nitrogen collides. As the RNA tries to advance through the polymerase, it collides with part of the polymerase and jams it, okay? Let me show you that how, you know, the molecule is, this remdesivir is pretty flexible. It's got a lot of rotatable bonds. Let me just run a little molecular dynamics. This is using OpenMM, an amber force field. I'm just gonna tug on this nitrogen. I just wanted to show you that this part, how this cyano group, the carbon and nitrogen, is connected to the sugar is rigid. It can't like point in some other direction to get out of the way.
Tom, is that green arrow that's been showing up, is that you tugging it, or?
Yes, yes, I was just using the mouse. I just clicked on an atom and tugged it around.
Okay, great, thank you.
Oh yeah, it's just a little green arrow. You don't see it very often. Okay, so this was all done just with my laptop. Not too much different from what I just showed you with all the fancy VR equipment. One thing you'll notice is I was using this pen to point, okay? And the reason why is, notice I'm entirely behind the molecule, okay? We don't have a depth sensing camera anymore. And so the video, I place all of the molecules and the models that are being shown in front of the video. So my hands, for instance, are all behind the molecules. And if I want to point, say, to this critical carbon and nitrogen with my finger, say, well, my finger's behind the molecule, and it doesn't work too well. It's kind of hard to see. It can work, you know, I could point to things from the side, but the magic pen here, when I point, this green pen ends up in front. What's going on there? Well, this gets back to the green screen question before. My little webcam command, if it sees something green in the video, it puts it in front. Okay, look, the gray end of my pen is behind, but the green is in front. You can change this color green. Green seems to be a pretty good color in my tests. I guess I don't have very much green in my home and in my background of this video. And so green works well, but you could change it to blue or some other color as the color that gets put in front. All right, so that's let's see. So that's how this augmented reality can be done with no special equipment. If I wanted to record a video of this, let me maybe quickly show you that. I would just, on the Mac, I would just start QuickTime, okay? In like applications, QuickTime Player, it can do screen recordings. Any screen recording software could work, but this one's built in. So let me just show you how to do that. So I just started it. I see it up in my menu. Under File, it says New Screen Recording. So I'll do that. And I'll just drag the little rectangle to record just the computer, the ChimeraX graphics region. And I'll press record. And let's see, I think I have a little 5-second countdown. Boom, it started. I say, this is the triphosphate form of remdesivir. And this carbon and this nitrogen is what causes the polymerase to, the viral polymerase to jam. Then I press my stop button, and let me hide Chimera. Now I have this video. This is the triphosphate from remdesivir. Okay. This carbon and this nitrogen is what causes the polymerase. Okay, so that's the idea. When I'm showing you this augmented reality, I've been showing it to you live, and I guess it could be used that way. If you're quarantined at home and your PI wants to know what the latest findings are of your studies of your protein that you're looking at, you can connect by Zoom, and you can actually show them what you've been looking at. You could do it live. But I've mostly been thinking about you would prepare a video to explain the science that you're doing. And as I said, you could even include this as supplementary information on a journal article, say. I've been trying to get a bunch of collaborators interested in doing that, but I didn't have this easy method of doing it with just a webcam. And a number of them said they were getting the VR equipment and the depth camera because they were excited to do it. But so far, to my knowledge, nobody has published augmented video using ChimeraX of their science results. So you could be the first, and if you do it, let me know. I think it could be a good way to present science in the future.
Yeah, but it's kind of useless again because internet connection is unstable.
So any questions?
Yeah,
So I'd like to say great demo, but I was wondering, Tom, if instead of seeing your face, can you project where you are, say, the protein, and move the protein around? And so you'd have two images, one left hand, one right hand controlled. I don't know, I'm just guessing.
So if I wanted to move two molecules at the same time, I can do that in virtual reality with two hand controllers. Here I'm on my Mac, and I only have a trackpad, and I can move my molecule around, but I don't have a second input device to move another object. Let me explain a little bit one of the key advantages, I think, of the augmented reality, and it's a subtle thing. It's hard to appreciate. It's hard to explain it in words, but is when you're telling somebody a story. I mean, why do I need this video at all? Why don't I just turn off my webcam off, and I'll say, give the same presentation without me in it, and I'll say, here's my remdesivir triphosphate, and this carbon and this nitrogen are important. Well, I don't have my pen to point at it. Or I could maybe add a pointer that I control with a mouse. I think it would be not nearly as good. People like to see a presenter. People like to go to a talk and see the PowerPoint slides and the person with the laser pointer talking to them. So I think it's a subtle, somewhat psychological thing that in communicating some science, it's good to have the person, to see the person. It's good to have the, whoops, sorry, I was just trying to turn on my webcam again here. It's good to see them, and we're very good at using our hands to point at things and make gestures.
So if I had a green laser, would it work the same?
In this laptop, in this webcam version, anything that's green will work. I couldn't find many green things to use. I almost got a blade of green grass in order to use as a pointer, just picked from outside. But I found this pen worked pretty well. But anything green that appears green. The laser wouldn't work very well because you don't see it traveling through space. You know, you can see the green spot on the wall behind me. Are there other questions?
That's great, Tom. I was wondering, this is Jason Key, that's pretty good. So have you experimented, this seems really new, so this is maybe just a future thing. have you experimented with offsetting the center of rotation and then the video center so that they don't sort of land right on your face?
Yeah,
You
so
know, so that like
you know,
like if it was spinning here, I don't know if you
yeah,
can see my
yes.
video.
So
It would be a little
okay,
easier.
excellent question. You may think, yeah, that was pretty brutal, like me spinning a molecule in front of my face. When I've made videos, what I normally do is I'm off to the side, and I put my molecule over here, and I don't obstruct my face because that's pretty horrible. But when I tested this laptop version, what I found was I could do it that way. I mean, it doesn't require anything special. What I found was my eyes didn't look like they were looking at the molecule. Like I would, when I tested this yesterday, I'd say, do you see this nitrogen is the key nitrogen and this carbon? These two are what obstruct the RNA polymerase. Well, it doesn't look like I'm looking at the molecule.
Yeah.
Because just the alignment of the webcam. And so
Yeah.
this is all brand new, and that may still be a better approach, and there may be some trick to avoid that. But what I found is that if I do this kind of ugly thing and plaster it right over my face, maybe I could put it a little lower, then it actually looks like I'm looking at the, you know, this nitrogen when I say this nitrogen. And that like helps communicate.
That
So
gets right to your point of the sort of like the sort of human nature of it. You're really showing like, you know, it's like you're present, you're interacting with someone, they're showing you something in person almost.
Yeah.
Right. You have this kind of human expectation of that their eyes are going to match what you're looking at.
Yeah.
And you see this like right now in sort of COVID-19 times, you watch these, I don't know, you see the news or like talk show or something and everybody's remote and people are like, they're like looking down here, right? They're like nobody's looking at each other.
Yeah.
They're looking at their own picture on their screen or something. So, and it's strange. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the very fun things I find about virtual reality and this augmented reality now is there's so many surprises. Like you can't really predict until you try it. It's hard to predict the weird things that are going to come up. Like just your question here. I mean, of course I tried it without the molecule not on top of my face. And I was totally shocked. I recorded a video of it as a test, a 1-minute video, and I watched the video. And I thought, this is horrible. I mean, like this person is like a zombie. They're not even looking at what they're telling you. So that's why I had to, I mean, this is not a great solution, but maybe we'll get used to this in the future, that like having like, you know, crazy things. If I was showing you something in front of my face, you might find it acceptable. Let's see. Yeah, here's this image I just pulled online because this whole augmented reality reminded me of when I was a little kid. We had show and tell in like when we were like 7 years old. We'd like bring something from home. Somebody would bring their pet snake and say, "Here it is. Here's my snake." And then people would ask questions like, "Oh, does it have fangs?" And you say, "See, it doesn't have any fangs." And you're holding it right in front of yourself. Are there other questions?
So there's one question from PA in the audience who can't unmute.
Sure.
Does the webcam interface work on the Windows builds for Chimera too?
Oh, good question. And I meant to say that. Sadly, I just added the webcam thing. Like you need to get today's daily build. It's on the daily builds are on the ChimeraX download site. You actually have to scroll to the bottom of the download page because our 1.0 version is at the top. That came out a month ago. It doesn't have this webcam thing. I tested it on Windows just yesterday. It didn't work on my Windows laptop because the webcam on my Windows laptop didn't provide the pixel formats in red, green, blue. It used YUV. So my webcam code isn't currently working on the Windows machine I tested, only on the Mac laptop. I've only tested on the Mac laptop, but I can make it work on the Windows laptop. And that just requires another day. Hopefully I'll get to it this week. to make this YUV camera format work. So
I
hopefully
guess,
it will work on Windows laptops. It will, if you try it and it doesn't work, you might go to ChimeraX and say, there's a help, report a bug. And because it will say what format your camera was trying to use. And if you report that to me, that will alert me to that some cameras use this other format, and I need to add a little support for that format too. But right now, just Mac laptops, I think. At least that's all I've tested.
and I guess maybe kind of a follow-up stretch thing. What do you think about Linux and webcams? And is that just, it might
It
work?
should work on that too. It should work on that too. And you can try it right now in the daily build. It might work. It's just a matter of my current code that I put in on Sunday. Okay, I wrote this code just on Sunday, so it's really like brand new. Who knows what errors you'll get if you do it on anything other than a Mac laptop. I haven't even tried on a Linux system yet.
I was
it's
curious.
just a matter of whether
because there was the audio visual on Linux has been historically problematic.
So ChimeraX is based on the Qt window toolkit, and Qt handles video. And so I just asked Qt, give me the video from, is there any webcam? Oh, there is. Give me the video from it. So I believe Qt can handle the video on Linux. I saw lots of posts about that online when I was working on the code on Sunday.
Right.
But probably I'm thinking that when I did it on the Mac and I asked for RGB, red, green, blue video format, that it maybe only Mac provides that, and Windows and Linux and the rest of the world, Apple likes to do everything different, right? The rest of the world might be using this YUV color space for their video. And so hopefully when I add the YUV color space, both Windows and Linux will work with this webcam AR capture.
Cool.
Other questions?
Well, on that same note, I know that I've seen people doing, VR on Ubuntu systems and stuff at like hackathons and things, but I don't have a lot of experience with it. You're using Windows. Is that just because it's more stable, tried and true, easier to do, or
Jason, did you say you've seen them use VR or on Linux or AR?
VR.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
so the VR, ChimeraX VR can work on Windows or Mac or Linux. I've used it on all of them, but I would strongly recommend, if you're like excited about the VR and want to try it and explore it, to use Windows, even if you're not that's not your main operating system, because 99% of all virtual reality, I'm not exaggerating here, 99% is on Windows. And so the Windows support is solid, it works. But ChimeraX, I make it work on Mac and Linux, but it's just pitfalls everywhere. And so if you don't have a Windows system available, it can be made to work on Mac and Linux. And I have web pages. And if you go to my ChimeraX presentations link to today's SBGrid presentation, I have links in that little description of today's talk to how to set it up VR up on Linux and Mac. So I did it a while ago, like 2018 even, I think about a year and a half ago. And so things may have changed. For instance, I know that Steam, the game distribution platform, and ChimeraX VR works through Steam VR. It's sort of the cross-platform solution for doing VR. They officially dropped support for Mac about 1 month ago. They announced that they were not supporting Mac. I'm not sure that means anything because they weren't supporting Mac before that. Apple had announced that they were supporting it, and I tried to get it to work a year and a half ago, and it didn't. It had a lot of technical problems, and I talked to Valve, the company that makes Steam, and they say, oh, we don't support Mac. we don't officially support it. So anyways, you can try on Linux and Mac, but really I strongly recommend Windows if you can for VR.
Hi, Tom. This is Shifeng from Cornell. Great talk. I have a question, very technically question. So is that possible to add a virtual background to your video? That will be like, be more professional for publication.
In this Zoom, yeah. In this, no, ChimeraX can't do that right now. Like Zoom does that, right? You can add some background. You don't want people to see your messy house and your cat and things. So I can't do that right now. And I actually was thinking of working on that this weekend when I was doing this webcam stuff, because I thought maybe I wasn't thinking so much about the virtual backgrounds, but if I can separate the person from the background, then I can put the person in front and the background in back, and the molecules will be in between. So my hand would end up in front of the molecule. At any rate, that's a bit tricky. It doesn't even work that well in Zoom to separate the background out. And you need to separate out the background to put in a virtual background, like the beautiful image of the ocean, the beach in Hawaii or whatever. So I may try that in the future, mostly to be able to put my hand in front of the molecule. I may try separating background from the person, but can't do it now.
Thanks.
Well, would be interesting, for example, to put as a background the cellular environment or things like that.
Yeah. So the trick is that if we don't have any special camera like my depth camera, then how do you know what's the person and what's the background?
Yeah.
Well, what Zoom uses and what other technology use is anything that moves is the person, and anything that doesn't move is the background.
Yeah.
But what happens, you'll notice this if you use it in Zoom, if you stay still, you'll disappear because it decides eventually, oh, you haven't moved. Those little parts will start disappearing. And if I move something like a chair, all of a sudden the chair will appear in front of my background because it has no other way of knowing what's...
That's why a green screen would be a possibility. So
yes.
Put just a green sheet in the back of your in your living room, and then replace the green by whatever image you'd like.
It could certainly be done, and definitely contact me if you have really strong interest in it, and I can try to add some green screen support that would allow you to put in a virtual background wherever the green is. Yeah, it's a good point. Other questions?
I'm really excited about ChimeraX. I was wondering if you looked at all using pose tracking, because you may be able to do something with hands, basically just hand tracking to grab onto molecules. I know some of these toolkits, like the Azure Connect DK, has a pose detection toolkit built into it.
Hand tracking. So yeah, I've considered the VR has different aspects of it that are valuable. One is that I can just have hand controllers, and there's 6 degrees of freedom, unlike the mouse. Like when I was doing this, moving this around with the webcam version of the AR, I'm using the trackpad with one hand while I'm pointing. Where'd my pointer go? Pointing with the other hand. I lost my valuable green pen now. So hand tracking can be a much more natural way to do things. And I was considering, maybe I can use the VR hand controller without the headset. But in all of those things, what I'm most kind of concerned about is people don't have that specialized equipment. And that limits the use a lot. I've also tried hand tracking. I've tried a Leap Motion device. It came out, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. It was just a little device that sat in front of your keyboard and it could see all your fingers. And it was very erratic. The tracking was quite poor. And in like serious augmented reality equipment, like a Microsoft, like HoloLens, where you can see through, it's a headset and it projects the images. They do hand tracking based on using cameras on the headset. But all of these hand tracking things are very, they're really like not quite there yet. And so in VR, the norm is you hold some device in your hands. And the Kinect could work that way too. So we're interested in supporting devices that people actually have, I guess I'd say.
So to some degree, it's a chicken and egg sort of thing, right? And once the devices are, powerful and do great things, more people will get them. I mean, just to, speak to that, we still have people, at our institution who are using dial boxes. We sort of hacked them onto Linux systems so they sort of work, right? Yeah. But people like their dials. They'll go to extreme lengths to make them work. And
the dials are great. This Ken was asking earlier about 3D, and you, Jason, or Pete, I forget, talked about the 3D vision, the like stereo shutter glasses, the older technology.
I remember these. I remember these.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is like all of these things are, a lot of these technologies are no longer produced.
Yeah.
And part of that can be, I think, blamed on virtual reality. The success of virtual reality, I think, is, or the partial success, has probably killed off 3D vision, the like stereo glasses.
Yeah.
My hope is that because
your computer only have 28% batteries, gonna be shut down very soon. Your computer only have a 28% battery.
It looks like 28%.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I have it blocked on my screen, so I can't even see my battery. Oh, thank you for telling me. But fortunately, it's a pretty new laptop, and the 28% will last an hour.
I was just going to add in that my hope is that because the VR equipment itself has use cases that are much bigger than the sort of niche of, structural biologists who are in a dark room somewhere, right, running seashell, trying to, look at fit density into a 5-angstrom map. This equipment would remain profitable for production and then could sort of serve this use and stay around a while.
The VR, I think, has the best hope of any 3D equipment I have tried. Here, let me show you some other. Look at this. This is a space navigator. It survived. It's a 6 degree of freedom input device. I don't use it much. Here's some nicer hand controllers. This is a Oculus Rift hand controller. Nicer than the ones I was using. But the VR headsets, from what I have heard, the VR headsets using Steam VR, which is what ChimeraX uses, their usage is tracked because Steam VR updates automatically. Every month they come out with new numbers. There are 2 million active VR headsets. I'd be willing to bet that is far greater than all of the LCD shutter glasses that have ever been sold in the world in the last 30 years. So VR, I think, is the most successful 3D technology so far. And so, yeah, there's definitely hope that, especially with other consumer and gaming applications, that we'll have some really cool stuff for doing science.
I guess one question about the using hardware that people have and hand tracking. Have you thought about just interfacing with like a cell phone that has accelerometers
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
orientation sensors, using that as kind of like a really expensive 3D mouse.
Yeah, that would be, I've thought about it. I've been very much tempted to do it the last couple of years of just, how about this molecule here in order to move it around more fluidly and easily. It's just locked to my cell phone. I have my cell phone in my hand. I just move the cell phone around and it tracks. Sadly, it's not technically very easy. Like the virtual reality hand controllers, they have inside, just like your cell phone, inertial measurement unit, gyroscope, and accelerometer, but those things drift, okay? So it can't maintain its positional information with just the accelerometer and the gyroscope. And instead, it's using these external base stations. Because you don't have the external base station with your phone, it's a big problem. The more modern VR headsets don't use the base stations, and they have cameras on, like 5 or 6 cameras on the headset that look at the room. So the headset itself knows its position based on an accelerometer and gyroscope, like your cell phone, but that's not good enough. It also uses the cameras to look at the room so that it doesn't drift away. So yeah, it's the cell phone could potentially be used, but it's tricky. Technically, it's difficult.
It sounds like it. So
I'm going to try it someday, but I totally agree, because that's technology that almost everyone has. Let me mention one more technology that somebody just yesterday sent me something called a looking glass. It's a display that's thick. It's like 3 inches thick, and without any glasses, you see 3D, because it provides 45 different viewpoints that are directed in different directions. It's some modern tech, and to interact with it, like if I'm showing a molecule in that looking glass display, I can use my hand with like one of these leap motion tracker devices. So what I just told you was, it doesn't exist in ChimeraX yet, but next week or in a couple weeks, probably more like a few weeks, it might exist, because the person sent me the looking glass device, hoping that I would be tempted to make ChimeraX work with it. And that's probably going to succeed. Like, I will be tempted. So, but again, that's a $600 display for just a little 9-inch display. The 15-inch one is like $3,000. And so it's sort of out of reach for most people to get. Okay, are there any remaining questions, or we have to end here because we're over time?
We are a couple minutes over time. So we have one question from Elad in the chat. I don't know, asking about which menu do you activate the webcam under?
ChimeraX does a lot of things just with typed commands, and so I don't have any menu entry. And the command is called Webcam, and you can just say Webcam on. And if you want to know what the options are, like how I change the color of the pointer, let me see if I could show you that. You could use the command usage webcam. You say usage webcam in ChimeraX. Sorry, I just want to be able to show the log there. If I type the command usage webcam, because this is so new, it's not in the documentation yet. I'm going to add today, or send the documentation information to Elaine in my lab, but it's not currently in the manual. So I typed the command usage webcam, and now it says webcam enable foreground color is an option, saturation. Saturation has to do with how green does the green pen have to be in order to be put in front. So you have to use the webcam command to turn it on and off now.
Tangentially related, since I don't think anybody has mentioned it, thank you for building new features into ChimeraX over a long weekend.
It was fun. It's cool. It's kind of cool stuff. I'm going to take the next few days off, like just as comp time for having worked the weekend. So
fair enough. Yeah, but it did seem above and beyond. So
it's I was amazed I got it going in a day to be able to show you. But I also feel like I hope some people will give it a shot, give it a try. I felt bad just showing you the very high-tech solution where you don't have the equipment to do it.
Well, thank you. I mean, that having the hardware available is a big win for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I think you're down to 15% on your laptop now, and we're about 8 minutes over. So.
I was wrong. I have my power here if necessary, but yeah, we can.
So I think I'll stop recording now. But if folks want to, if Tom, if you'd like to stay on and talk more or answer more questions, if folks have them, I'd happy to leave things running.
Leave things running. I'd love to answer some questions.